Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Hi there. Welcome to this, the 56th episode of A Couple Takes on MS. Hi, this is Dan Digman.
And hi, it's me, Jennifer Digman.
Welcome to this. It's just, I'm so excited. I mean, we're coming up on towards the end of the year and everything. But what we want to talk about today, and stick around for this one, is just standing your ground against MS. And I think that's something where it's just the reality that MS is going to knock you down.
Yes, MS will knock you down, and in the words of the immortal Tom Petty, stand your ground and don't back down.
And that's something that what we're going to talk about today, and hopefully help and encourage you, is to keep moving in spite of the times that MS just gets the best of us and truly knocks us down. And we're
really quickly, Dan,
yes,
I think
please.
we should just remind people that Dan and I are both living with multiple sclerosis. We're pushing 20 years each.
I was going to say 20 years each. Well, we average 20 years. You're like 21, and I'm at 19.
I'm at the drinking age.
You are totally drinking
Woo!
age.
Sorry. But yeah, I mean, I'm living with secondary progressive multiple sclerosis, and Dan's is still relapsing, remitting, thank God.
And we've been married for 13 years, and thereby then a couple takes on MS where we're approaching these different topics relating to multiple sclerosis.
From two very different perspectives. We're both caregivers, but you do a different type of caregiving for me, and I do different caregiving for you. But at the end, we're both living with multiple sclerosis.
So in some senses, we've been there, done that. So we've got some things to say that hopefully will help other people living with multiple sclerosis. And the reality is, we want to hear from you. I mean, we have our perspectives, but we want to know your perspectives. So at the end of the show or during the show, reach out to us and catch us on our website is danandjenniferdigman.com or connect with us on Twitter at danjendig.
Absolutely, because sharing your story, as you and I have talked about all the time, sharing your story makes living with this disease easier. You know, there are so many of us living with multiple sclerosis, whether you have the disease or you're a caregiver for someone living with it. It's just easier to talk about your story, to share what you're going through. And I think that doing that makes it easier and more manageable and less frustrating. And I think that's a big thing that helps Dan and I, is we get this opportunity to talk about our experiences with MS. And hopefully we can help people, and we look for you to help us too.
Because when you reach out, then all of a sudden you're not facing this disease alone. You have a greater sense of empowerment and giving yourself the agency. So what we want to hear from you today is about how you stand your ground against MS. And this really spurs from, ripped from the headlines kind of thing within the Dan and Jennifer Digman world. This is what happens when you have two people living with multiple sclerosis, and when the simplest of acts and things that you do all the time, at least 8 to 10 times a day, goes terribly awry.
Terribly awry, and in the simplest way, you know, as you said, you transfer me and help me use the restroom, 8 times a day at least, in And one morning, it was a Saturday morning, about 3:30.
Saturday/Sunday morning. It was at like remembering the clock. It was about like 3:30.
3:37.
Yes,
To be exact. And I had to go to the bathroom. So I wake up Dan, and he's transferring me, as we've done a bajillion times before. But on that day, my legs were incredibly shaky and quivery, and they were just being really antsy.
And I mean, and this is something where, and welcome to our world, radio listeners, because sometimes I think people say that we make, that we never talk about the bad things, and we never talk about when things are tragic, but
we make MS look good.
We do, but here's the reality. Just to put you into the situation. I mean, Jennifer no longer can stand on her own. But what happens then is she can, help her sit up in bed. I get underneath, I put my arms underneath her arms, and I wrap my arm like a big bear hug, and then I help her stand. And once her legs engage, she's good to stand for about a minute.
And that's being a little generous, but I would say a good 30 seconds.
30 seconds, she's solid, and then it's like, so she's standing up straight, and then it's a pivot into her wheelchair. And usually, like when her legs get shaky, they're just like bouncing. And usually when I help her stand, the bouncing stops.
That quiets it down.
It does.
Instantly.
But on this particular Sunday morning at 3:37, as I turned her to pivot into the chair,
oh, good Lord,
both of her legs gave out, and so I had momentum going to the side.
I had momentum going to the floor.
And truly, we can be all dramatic and say that Jennifer fell. But what it was is I didn't get her over to the chair, and she just kind of, she was kind of had just maybe a
quarter of my butt on my chair.
And so it was a couple attempts to just try and muster up the strength to stand her up and scoot her back. And
it's 3:37 in the morning, and you're tired. And I'm weak with shaky legs, so it was more of a controlled spill.
Well, it is. It's just like, when you try a couple times and you're just going to end up on the floor, you have that choice to make where you're just like, we can, because sometimes when we've had something like this happen before, you end up dropping to the floor like on your knees, and you can't move your legs, and you just basically, I don't want to say blow out your knees, and your knees are tender for weeks. Yeah. And so it's just like, okay, well, let's just drop you to the floor on your side
and go from there. And again, neither Dan or I were happy, because it was at this point in time like 3:40 in the morning. And we had to Dan had to go push the Hoyer lift into the bedroom. And for any of you who've used a Hoyer lift, if you don't do it often, it's quite a process.
And I think that's where I was encouraged. I mean, as frustrating as it was, I relished the fact that it had been so long since we needed to use said Hoyer lift that we both kind of forgot how to use it.
Absolutely.
Forgot how to do the sling and everything. And obviously, yes, and we figured it out, got you up into bed, and, and we managed. But I think that's, that's something, and we do that. We do those the transfers in and out of the wheelchair umpteen times a day.
Right.
And so I guess this is the question then, is how do you then, I mean, this is just one example, but then, I mean, what does that do to your confidence? What does that do to your abilities and just what in your head and stuff and thinking? And how do you get back, would you say, get back on the MS horse?
Yeah.
And just keep going and moving forward?
Well, I think, as we're being all dramatic about the time, as I keep reiterating that it was 3:37, it was 5 o'clock in the morning by the time we'd gotten me into the Hoyer lift, because it took a while, got me back into bed. I'm freezing, you're freezing, even though we're in our own house. There's like some
Well, the house is
adrenaline.
65 degrees.
Yes, good point.
And
then
it's like below, 25 degrees outside.
So we're both kind of cold and we're tired, and we decide, we love God, but we're not going to church in the morning. We're tired. My legs were a little still just jittery. So when I had to get up, in a couple hours, that was nervous. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it was for you, as nerve-wracking as it was for me, because I was just, granted, it was a controlled get on the floor experience, but it was still, that's nerve-wracking, and you're going to have to use your legs, you're going to have to go to the bathroom, you're going to need to transfer. So I was scared.
And so what gives you the strength? How did you? I mean, I it's just like, I think that's like a freak time, because
Yeah.
it's just so, as I like reiterated or just kind of mansplained to you and stuff, just because we had the momentum going. Usually I have my knees in front of yours, so you can lock them if they go out.
Yeah.
But I for the next couple 3 days, even still today, 3 days later,
Yeah.
if even one of your legs goes out, you get nervous. I mean, so how do you? What are some keys for everybody when you have those moments?
Well, I think immediately that first bathroom transfer, that first out of bed transfer, I was nervous. And so, I'm cautious. I'm not going to just go all guns blazing, because I think that's how another accident could happen. But I knew that I had to trust my legs. To be perfectly honest and fair, we were really tired before the accident or the almost fall happened, and my legs were tired, so I needed to remember that and just, say your legs are good, and I need to have faith in that, but then I needed to have faith in you. You're my caregiver. You've done this a jillion times, as you said earlier, and I needed to trust that, and between you and I, that we're strong, that we can do this. We just had to take it quite slow those first few times.
And I think that's something that
Yeah.
What?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No.
interrupt, but same question to you as my caregiver. How do you handle it? I mean, were you freaked out?
And honestly, I wasn't. Because I think it's, obviously there's like the overthinking of things, as I do, and processing and stuff.
And likewise.
But it was just like where you can look and see where, what happened. This wasn't like a normal thing, because
No.
it's not every day that both of your legs go out mid-transfer. And I think that that's where you just have to remind yourself. And the other thing, too, is obviously, yes, we're at a greater risk, or in a different category, so to speak, with the whole multiple sclerosis that we share. However, it's just remembering that these kinds of things happen to everybody.
Yes, they do.
And those of us in the MS community, and I don't want to sound crass, because I'm living with it, but it's just like sometimes I think we want to claim all this, that we own the market and the corner on falling for no reason, and I think that's just where everybody does it.
Everybody, well, they're accidents,
It
and
happens.
accidents happen to everyone. And you don't have to have multiple sclerosis for your legs to give out. Or if you're tired, you can make a transfer, maybe not as neatly, as strongly as you would when you're more well rested.
Well,
We had just come off that experience of me. I was doing some physical therapy, and this was on Sunday, but on Friday I had done physical therapy, and I was on my hands and my knees which sounds incredible, but because I had a number of physical therapists help me. So I was tired from that.
Well, and you were doing that after we had just had like a, a whirlwind trip to New York City.
Right.
Like within 3 days. I mean, we weren't even in New York for 48 hours, and just the all of the stuff. And I think that's where one of the big things that we with MS need to do is to just stop and listen to our bodies.
And I think that this fall, if you want to call it, that is a perfect example of your body when you don't listen to your body. Sometimes your body screams at you and says, no, I want you to listen to me. And that's why you have, unfortunately, incidents like that. And that's why it is important to listen to your body so you don't have experiences like that. But fortunately, we had it. We moved forward. We made the transfers. It took a little bit to get the transfer going and to get my legs feeling 100%. But, give it a little time and some rest. We were able to do that.
Well, I think that's where, when I used to run,
Yes.
and the number of, I make it sound like it happened all the time, but I mean, falling when I was running, because what happens when I was running, my left side gets weak because of my MS, and so my foot starts dragging, and then if I clip something in the road on the route, I fall. And then, I've, cracked my head, and we had to go to the ER a couple times to take care of stitches in my forehead where I slammed onto the pavement. I got up and continued to run, but it's like I made that conscious decision that the risks it wasn't worth it. However, it doesn't, just because I don't run doesn't mean that I don't keep moving.
Absolutely. And just because I don't walk, or just because I can't stand on my own, doesn't mean I don't keep moving. I try and participate in physical therapy or exercise classes that are suitable for me, or you stretch and you lift weights, and we try and stay active, keep moving, because we don't want MS to, I'm exercising and I'm tiring out my legs, but I don't want to know what my legs would be like if I didn't exercise.
Well, and that's where we, like everybody, but especially us living with MS, we need to keep moving.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you need to find that happy medium where you're moving, but you're not pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion to where you can't stand, or you can't function. And I think that's
one of the hardest lessons to learn. If you think about, and any of you out there that are living with multiple sclerosis, when you're newly diagnosed, I know when I first got a cold, or I was just really tired and my legs were wonky, and I was like, oh my goodness, my MS is progressing. And it wasn't. It was just you had to learn your body. You had to learn your new normal of how to deal with it. When you were really tired and it was hard to pick up your feet, you knew you just had to get more rest, or you couldn't run yourself as ragged. So I think that that's one of the things to remember about your body when you're newly diagnosed, or anytime you're living with multiple sclerosis, is really just give your body a little more appreciation and respect. When you say respect,
just totally respect. Well, it's like you're respecting your body. You're respecting the disease. I trash talk it.
Certainly
but
you do.
Even you think of all your competitors, your fiercest of competitors, deep down there's a level of respect for what that competition is bringing to the table. And so I totally respect the disease, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to, go at it with guns blazing. I mean, that's just where, but it's just a matter of truly standing your ground against the disease.
And that is something I can't imagine. We're blessed and cursed at the same time, but you're living with the disease and I'm living with the disease. So if I ever want to say, oh, Dan, don't overdo it, I know deep down what it's like to live with MS, where you don't want to stop doing it and give it any more of you than that you could try and keep it from doing. So as a caregiver for someone in the world out there who doesn't, if you're a parent dealing with a child, or a spouse dealing with a spouse who has multiple sclerosis and you yourself don't have it, you may not understand what it's like living with the disease, where do you know what I'm saying? Where the person living with MS doesn't want to give the disease any more power to stop them from moving forward. And the spouse or the parent may say, but no, you need to stop. And you have to together find that balance, or that place where you're not overdoing it, but you're respecting the disease.
Well, I think, and on many levels, that's kind of related as to why I even stopped running. I mean, you weren't telling me to not run anymore, but it's just that realization on my part. It's just like this for what I need to do, where I need to be. I bust my ankle or something, I'm no good to you, and then we're truly in a world of hurt. And so, but it's just like what keeps you moving forward. And I think that's the one thing. It's just because I can. Because I can continue to move forward.
Well, and certainly, I exercised, and then we had this incident, but then I had an opportunity this week where I did physical therapy again, and I got to stand in an XY gantry. I have to remember that because it's new equipment that Central Michigan University physical therapy department has, and that they allowed me to use. They got me hoisted up, and I was able to dance. And it was really tiring, but I didn't overexhaust myself because I didn't want to have another incident where I fell. So I learned kind of to respect my limits and not overdo it. But I certainly, just because I had that incident where I slipped out of my chair, it was a controlled fall out of my chair. I didn't want to let that keep me from having the opportunity or the experience of dancing. And that's something where I kept moving forward. And that's like you where you keep moving forward. You're not going to fall and crack your head anymore because you know better than that with running. But you're going to keep doing as much activity to slow down the disease and keep yourself healthy as possible.
And that's something, check out, it's on our blog this week. It's a link to an essay that we wrote for
the life effects.
And it's another website, but go to our website, danandjenniferdigman.com, because it'll have the video of Jennifer dancing.
To Tom Petty, I won't
back down. But then links to the essay that talks about the importance of continuing to move despite MS and why it's so important.
And then just keep going as much as you can, because you will thank yourself. 21 years living with the disease, and I think back to when I was newly diagnosed and thinking, I'm never going to be able to go on. I'm never going to be able to do this. But you put one foot in front of the other and you push yourself. And before you know it, boom, you're 21 years older. Unfortunately or fortunately, that's the reality of life. But thank God, 21 years, I'm with you and we're here together.
Then let me ask this. As you're laying on the floor, lay on the floor at 3:37 in the morning on a Sunday because you had a controlled fall, what's going through your head? I mean, were you thinking, I did too much, or the pivots from now on are going to be the worst thing ever?
I was thinking, please God, let me be able to get up, let the Hoyer lift work, let us figure this out, and just let Dan have the faith to know that we can do this again, and give me the confidence to know that we can make transfers, and we will get this. I'll get up into bed, I'll rest my legs, and bam, we'll strike, and I'll do my transfers and I'll keep moving. What was going through your head at 3:37?
I'm so tired, and I bet we don't go to church today.
Speak
You
the
know,
truth.
and then that's just like the odd thing is you're praying to God, yet then saying, well, but we're not going to go to church. No, I was just thinking, it's just like, because it's in my mind, I'm troubleshooting. It's just like, where did we go wrong? And it's just like, accidents, like say, accidents happen, and it's just like, don't let the accidents or unfortunate moments
Keep you from moving.
keep you from moving forward and doing all that you can. I mean, it's just like, but I think that's the biggest thing is like, MS is going to knock you down, but it's just, this saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8, where you just always get the last word in over the disease, and you just keep moving. And even if it's, I don't run anymore, but, if I walk around the neighborhood, you don't walk anymore, but I mean that you can get up in the sling and you can dance and you can move and you use your arm weights, and it's the motion, it's the moving to keep things in check.
And it's us standing our ground against multiple sclerosis. We're not going to back down.
Exactly. So check in with us. Let us know. I mean, what do you do to keep moving forward to stand your ground against MS? I mean, because obviously it's not a perfect world, or it's not a perfect disease by any stretch of the imagination, but it's like, what are the keys to keep you moving that would help other people? Check in with us again. Find us on danandjenniferdigman.com.
And tweet to us at DanJenDig on Twitter, and share your stories with us. We really appreciate it, and I think it'll help you as much as it'll help us. So have a great day, and thank you.
Thanks for checking in with us, and thanks again to Blue Giraffe Kid for composing the theme music for our show, A Couple Takes on MS, and thanks also to MS&Me Radio Network for having us along. Take care.